Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Resilient Advisor Show. My name is Jay Coulter, and this is a new series I'm doing with my friend Penny Phillips, where we're going to talk about different things going on in the industry as it relates to the changes that we are seeing. Before we get started, I want to let you know that this particular episode is sponsored by Lead Pilot from 20 over 10. Lead Pilot is an industry-leading digital marketing, email, social media platform. If you would like to learn more about how I've seen it help financial advisors transform their digital marketing strategy, please visit jcoulter.com/lead pilot. That is jcoulter.com/lead pilot. Penny, I have been podcasting and live streaming for about 4 years, and I've only just now started running advertising. So it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. I appreciate you bearing with me through that.
Absolutely.
I've had somebody suggest I should have somebody else do the advertising. I'm just not smart enough technologically to pull that off.
Well, same. I could barely get on this live stream today, so I totally understand.
All right, so since this is our first episode and what we hope is a series, why don't you tell listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So my name is Penny, and I run a coaching and consulting practice management company based in New York City called Thrivos, and we work exclusively with financial advisors and financial institutions and help them manage change. And I have to say, Jay, when I started the business a couple years ago, the whole mission was to help the industry effectively manage change and thrive. And boy, I had no idea what type of change we'd actually be dealing with just a few years later. So it was a good mission statement to start out with and continue with into 2020.
And very applicable to what you and I are going to talk about here on this series. It's about managing change, whether you are an advisor in your 20s or whether you're an advisor in your 60s and you're sitting there at the end of your career. You're in the fourth quarter and you still have to manage change if you want to be relevant. So for this episode, Penny and I were going to talk through really the three types of post-COVID advisor that we're seeing out there. And just so for folks that aren't familiar with Penny and myself, we have a wide lens into the industry because we work in a consulting relationship with advisors across the spectrum in age and demographic across platforms. So we're going to be able to bring you insights from what some of the top performers are. Penny, I would love for you to start. Let's talk about the first type that we see out there, and it's the easiest one. The best of the best, however they evolve through this crisis.
Yeah, and you just said something so important, Jay. You said we work with advisors across all demographics and age ranges. And what I've seen is that when we talk about the best advisor, it actually has nothing to do with age or years of experience in the business. It has to do with level of emotional intelligence and ability to shed old belief systems and evolve in your thinking. Those are the best advisors, the ones who can constantly shift and adjust. And so when we talk about the best advisors in the business right now, I say the best have just gotten better. And these were the advisors who they've done the fundamentals and they've evolved those fundamentals with the time. So what I mean by that is they have a systematic way that they reach out to clients. They have somebody on their team who's a client concierge associate who's constantly keeping in touch with folks in between review meetings, and those folks that have had those systems fundamentally in their practices have recognized that, hey, maybe it's time we graduate to Zoom or being in touch with clients digitally. And so they had already started to do that before the crisis. And so when COVID hit and shut everything down, they were really prepared to take advantage. And through the eyes of the client and the consumer, the client's thinking to themselves, wow, I'm working with a financial advisor or a service provider that is staying up to date and that is constantly evolving to serve me better. So those are the best advisors. That's how I would describe the best advisors in the business right now.
So when you and I had our first conversation about doing a series together, when I got off the phone, I thought, there's no way we're going to be able to do a 10-minute broadcast. There's so much to unpack just in that. I could do 2 hours on emotional intelligence. I'm glad you're a fan. And let's make sure we put that on our list down the road because, in my opinion, that's the most important driver for success in this industry. And it sounds like you're in that camp.
Yeah.
I teach systematizing everything, and I want to learn about that concierge strategy. Yeah. But to stay on point for this episode. And if you're watching live, please ask questions. If you're on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, they'll flow through here into the broadcast studio. All right. So the best are getting better.
Yes.
They're on top of their game. Let's talk about the next type of advisor you see in this post-COVID world.
Yeah, so this is I think some firms would define this, if you're in a broker dealer or, a bigger firm, as that movable middle. So these are the advisors who, and again, doesn't have to do with age or demographic. They recognize this was the kick in the butt they needed to recognize that they have to wholesale change the way in which they interact with one another internally as a team and interact with clients. These are the ones who were high activity during the last couple months, reaching out to clients, trying different things, and they felt really productive. And they've gotten to a place now where activity has leveled off, right? Clients aren't calling in as frequently. They aren't needing to reach out every single week. And they're at a place now where they're feeling a little bit less productive, excited about what this means for the future of their business, but also worried about, how to now use what they learned to create a new structure for themselves. So I would say these are the advisors with the biggest opportunity, but also we're going to have the biggest challenge in terms of, I hate this term, but I'll say it, defining the new normal for themselves.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm glad we didn't call this series that, Defining the New Normal.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the construct of what we're talking about. And Penny, in my experience speaking with advisors, this is completely binary. Those folks that are in the middle, they're going down one path or another. They're going to ride their business into the sunset and do nothing and not change. And then there are folks that want to make the change, but they're struggling.
Yes.
So do you have any thoughts on, and just high level, top of mind thoughts on what that advisor that wants to make that change should do, the first one or two things they should make sure they're paying attention to?
Yeah, so I answer it in two ways. The first is, and folks, if you're listening, go easy on yourselves. What happens with advisors is they all of a sudden feel like they need to change every single system in practice. They have this long agenda item of things they want to change. They get on a call with their team and the team's like, whoa, relax. So what I'd say is recognize that practice management is 15% concept, 85% behavioral change. So I would start with the behavioral change. Start with changing the way in which you run your calendar. Only meet with clients during Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and allow Monday and Fridays for yourself to strategically think and plan and start really acting like that CEO that all advisors say they want to act like. So start with the behavioral change. That would be the first thing. The second thing I would say is speak to your clients. If you're going to make a change in your practice, if you're going to realize and implement sort of a new strategy for how you run the business, get the buy-in of your top clients, get the buy-in of your team. Spend a lot of time speaking to them candidly and with vulnerability about the fact that you recognize you want to change the way you run the business for their benefit and get some feedback from them. Those two things will help you as you go on this long journey of ultimately shifting the entire business.
I really, really like that second concept, especially for advisors. They're sitting inside of a wirehouse and maybe your team is older themselves. And
Yes.
those changes can be really, really difficult in good times, more or less in times when they're trying to figure out how to work from their house, or not just if their team is older, if their team is at home and they're in an area like I am in Atlanta where your kids are at home. It's hard for you to execute when you're managing virtual school and trying to manage a book of business. It can be really, really overwhelming.
Absolutely. And if we've learned one thing, Jay, and I've been saying this for a long time, and I'm happy the industry is coming around, we have to change the way we define success. If you're at home and you have a kid that runs into your room, or you have a day where you realize, you know what, there's too much going on, I'm not going to be able to run the day the way I wanted to, and I'm going to take the afternoon off to be with my family or reset. Guess what? There's nothing wrong with that. You could do all those things, not be perfect, and still run a really successful business. And so I think what this has taught advisors is that the way in which they define success at the end of each day may be different now, and that's perfectly okay. And it's a good lesson for the industry to have learned.
One change I have found with myself and my long-term clients is actually changing the morning routine. So my morning routine was getting up at 5:55. exercising, getting to the office before anybody else was up. And that's just, not only is it not necessary now, there's no office to go to. And for a while, and I heard this from other really, really high level performers, they felt like they were failing. But the reality is you just change some components of your morning routine. I love your concept and construct of being kind to yourself as you go through these changes, and it doesn't mean that you're failing.
That's absolutely right.
So Penny Carmine Corino gave you a shout out saying Penny is right on the mark as usual. Thanks for tuning in, Carmine. And Josh Taffer from down in Jackson, Mississippi says, hello, good morning, guys. All right, Penny, let's move on to the third type of advisor that we're going to see in this post-COVID world. And these are very general buckets that we're segmenting advisors into for the purposes of this conversation. But really, this is where folks like you and I can have the most impact.
Absolutely. And this, I'll be kind to this third group, right? This third group, these are the advisors who we were speaking to early on and we're saying, you know what, our clients aren't calling us, so we're not calling them. They've learned that this is what happens with the markets and everything's cyclical, and they know to just, buy and hold and stick with the plan. So I'll say two things about these advisors. The first thing, this is just a general comment. If your clients aren't talking to you, they are talking to somebody, either on social media, their neighbor, their coworker, et cetera. So, this notion that clients, they've learned it and they're going to stick with, our plan and they get it. I would say people forget really, really quickly. Door frames have amnesia. Somebody on my team told me that. I thought it was brilliant. And so that's the first thing. But these are the advisors who perhaps, Jay, are, I say, sunsetting, getting ready to sunset out of the industry. And these are maybe the folks who've said, you know what, I'm not going to try to learn Zoom right now. I'm not going to try to do XYZ. And my message to the industry is, if I was a younger advisor in the business right now, a Gen Xer or Gen Yer, I would approach these advisors and say, do you want a forever home for your business? Do you want to not have to learn systems and processes, but want to integrate your I would literally go after those advisors. People wonder, well, I want to buy a book of business. I want to partner with an advisor. How do I find that advisor? Skip all the sites, go directly to the people that are having trouble, I'd say adapting to this new social media digital platform culture. So that's the third bucket of advisors, the ones who are going to have a difficulty changing, never will. And truthfully, they're going to, be out. I hate to say it like this, but they're going to be out of the industry in a short order. So that's the third group.
Door frames have amnesia. I love it.
Yes, I have to give credit to Erin Wilson on my team. She introduced that concept to me, and we've been rolling with it ever since.
Awesome. Yeah. Another listener this morning is John Phoenix from the Wealth Advisor Growth Network. Says, great content this morning, Jay and Penny. Jay Hummel has been a regular on this podcast over the years, and I love the work they're doing over at the Wealth Advisor Growth Network.
Yes, and we are all from the investment days. So, hi, yes.
All right. So I love the three archetype buckets that we've put advisors in. As we go through this series, we'll talk about ways each advisor in those different segments can go and improve their practice. The idea, folks, is to make this short, deliverable content. There are a lot of podcasts out there. There are a lot of webinars and training videos. Penny and I want to bring you quick, actionable content when you tune in to this show. We appreciate everybody listening. For more information on Penny and her work, please visit Thrivos
Consulting.com.
ThrivosConsulting.com. Penny, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jay. Have a good day. Thanks, everyone.